I mean, I think, look, I have had a very complicated relationship with social media, as you can probably imagine. And I also recognize the role that it plays in business. Part of it is, equally the work that you were talking about earlier. My husband and I spend a lot of time working on online harms, specifically surrounding protecting our children, not ours personally, but all of our children, for what they're susceptible to in the online space. So I'm sensitive to that. I also recognize that if you can show up in these spaces and be on the side of good, there is tremendous value in that also. So we're going to continue to expand the footprint in the social and digital space for the brand. For me personally, I don't know. The last time I was on Instagram, you guys, boomerang was a thing. That was a long time. As women, we support each other. We are not simply supporting each other's lives. We're supporting each other's legacies. And that's the piece that's so powerful. When I'm supporting or investing in another female founder, I am investing in what she's going to do for the culture, for her business, the legacy she's going to leave, how that brand, if it's a CPG brand, is going to show up in people's homes. So it is all fundamentally important, and I don't think it's a conversation we should shy away from. I think it's one that we should really
On October 14th, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, appeared at Fortune's Most Powerful Women Summit in Washington, speaking on the second day of the event about the launch of As Ever, her brand, as well as her Netflix deal. At a session entitled Next Level Influence, a conversation with Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, Alison Chantel, Editor-in-Chief and Chief Content Officer at Fortune, interviewed her. So today, in our live stream, we'll be talking about several points made in this conversation, as well as Meghan's fashion and the overall summary of the appearance and the event.
We'll get all the metrics that we need, and then it's sold out within 4 hours. Oh, I think it's just been a lot of learns and then extending and expanding the product categories to really see what those habits are and how we can show up in your home for you. With the series with Love Meghan, I was able to show people what I love to do, and then we had the brand where I could tell them how they could have a lot of those things in their own homes. And then, of course, for the business, it's been incredible because when you have female executive leadership that is so supportive of me as an entrepreneur, what we've designed is being able to have so much robust support in year one, where you have, it's a brand that's accessible, but it still has a quality that feels as though it's mastige. And so when we think about larger retailers, I think in the next couple of years that would make sense. Talk about there's nothing taboo. Doesn't need to be anything taboo about talking about our financial independence or our independence overall. And as women, when we support each other, we are not simply supporting each other's lives. We're supporting each other's legacies. And that's the piece that's so powerful. When
we have a lot to get into, so let's get started. Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for joining the live stream. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. It's so good to be back. I missed the live stream last week just because I had midterms and it was crazy. But it was so nice to watch this summit in full. I watched it live yesterday because it was streaming on, I believe it was Hello Magazine YouTube. But it was streaming. And then I watched it again today to just take a couple of notes. And there were so many gems, not even just from Meghan, but from all of the speakers. I think it's Allison Chantel. She had some really great things to say. And if you follow her on social media, she posted a photo, a selfie, that she took with Meghan. So I thought that was so sweet. But yeah, that was such a good, I wouldn't say appearance, but it was actually just more than that. It was just a good conversation. If you had just taken out the audience, you could totally have seen that same conversation happening like in a boardroom, in an office, on a couch. Like they just seemed so casual, so comfortable, but they were hitting on these really important topics. And I don't know about you, but that's the way I like to receive my information. I like for it to feel casual. I like for it to feel not intimidating, like when people over exaggerate the importance of things or even undersell. I'm not a big fan of just like the pomp and circumstance around valuable information. I loved everything about the way, not only the way this summit was held, because I've never been there, but I've never actually heard of this summit, but also the way Meghan's conversation in particular was formatted and the way they went about it. It felt more like structured, but casual conversation. So I really, really, really enjoyed it. Oh, wow. 92 people at 4 o'clock. Thank y'all for being here. I'm glad y'all joined me. But before I even get into the conversation surrounding Fortune's Most Powerful Women Summit, I do want to say congratulations to Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, for her podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, not just because it's awesome, but it actually won a Signal Award. It won for genre, business people, and entrepreneur. Why did I say genre? The genre it won was a listener's choice, and it won for business people and entrepreneurs shaping culture. Not surprised. That is very, very fitting. It was fantastic. I love that. But hopefully, I love that podcast, but hopefully this is an incentive for her to bring it back. I don't want to bug. I don't want to be that friend. Like, have you ever told somebody that you're working towards a goal? Like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight or I'm trying to save money. And then everything you do after that, they're like hawk eyeing you. Like, I thought you said you was losing weight. What's that cupcake about? Like, I don't want to be that person, but it's like anytime Confessions of a Female Founder comes up, I'm like, you know, Meghan, now would be a good time to start recording season 2. I'm just saying. But she did say that was up in the air at this moment. I mean, she's got a lot of irons in the fire. Like, imagine like debuting a podcast and then a few months later, it's already winning an award. So, you know, that means both of her podcasts, both with one season each, have won awards. That's a crazy track record. You better go, girl. Anyway, we have a lot to get into. I really want to say thanks so much to you guys for being here. I hope you've been enjoying the content, and I'm really glad that you guys made a little time for me today for a quick live stream. I'm going to put your comments here on the screen. So we're going to get into the summary, but y'all know how I like to do. I like to segment it out so that we can actually dialogue while we recap. So for our first segment, I really wanted to get into some of the commentary she had about As Ever. Obviously, that's why she was there. But is it just me, or I don't know, I think I'm just overly sentimental, but there was something just so cool, for lack of a better word, about just seeing Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, and then As Ever founder as her logo. And it's just like, it's so cool to be able to watch someone chart a path over time and just see how things evolve and prosper. What a fun journey to be able to observe. I'm so proud of her and Harry. I think they're doing such a wonderful job. And they definitely serve as an inspiration for me, because all the jobs they have, Anytime I feel tired, I'm like, well, Harry and Meghan wouldn't let that stop them. I have to push through. So I'm clearly watching the right ones. But anyway, get the conversation started in the comment section below or on the side, and then we'll continue to dialogue on the other side. But if you have not already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this live stream. Please don't forget to share so that more people can join us. Hopefully they get here before it's over. And then if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting on? I hope you subscribe. All right, let's get to the first segment.
Figuring out how to meet the demand that you have from your following.
Right.
So how are you navigating building the infrastructure behind the demand that you as a brand can make?
I think a lot of considerations go into which products become limited edition, which ones are going to be in steady state, what really is the brand identity beyond the jam, which, yes, is the hero product. Flower sprinkles became quite a thing, and that was really complemented by the show. With the series with Love Meghan, I was able to show people what I love to do, and then we had the brand where I could tell them how they could have a lot of those things in their own home.
When asked how she and her team meet the demand from her supporters and her customers, first Meghan acknowledged how thankful she was for all of the support, and because we sell things out in a matter of hours. You welcome, girl. I mean, that's a win for us, not just you. That's a win for us because we want your products, but also how that does present a bit of a challenge because they need to gather analytics. This is part of forecasting, and if we are immediately doing flash in the pan purchases, which is actually not a flash in the pan because it's consistent. This is just how you sell product, girl. Like, we're going to sell it out every time. You better get used to it. A bit of a challenge that presents is that they struggle with gathering analytics to forecast just what their demand will actually be. And even when she 10x'd her products, we sold those out in a matter of hours again. And so I thought this was such a cute moment because she's laughing, but I like that she takes this quote unquote challenge in stride. She acknowledges the huge benefit. She acknowledges the challenges that it presents, but also rolls up her sleeves and it's game on. Let's do it. And I really admire that about not just Meghan, but about founders in general. As someone who has worked with a number of founders and CEOs, there's nothing like working with someone who is all in, that dive in, hands first, let's do this, we got this. And while they're not toxically positive where everything is a fun thing. It's not that necessarily, but when you have someone who is rooted in the mission and is competent and they're confident in their competence, as well as their team's ability to follow through, it just makes the journey that much more exciting. It also makes that journey a lot more fulfilling for everyone, not just the CEO, not just the owner, not just the founder, but everyone. We all get to be part of growing this business and creating this moment and building this brand. And when you have a founder like Meghan and so many others that are just like this, when they are just as excited about the journey, addressing the pitfalls as well as the peaks, it just makes that journey so much more worthwhile. I find that in this interview, I kind of got a little bit of insight into what type of founder she is when working alongside her. And I could be wrong, but she just comes off in that way. And the way that she was speaking about her business and how she addresses not only the concerns, but the wins, it definitely gave me insight into what it was like to work with or for her. She also talked about how a lot of consideration went into which products are limited and which are staples. And I love that they're putting so much dedication into that because they do have excellent products and they vary, but their customers or her customers may want things at a certain time, but also they may want things consistent. I know that when they sold the raspberry jam and then it wasn't part of the second product launch or the product drop, people were mad until they had the apricot jam and they were like, you know what? I'm actually cool that we're getting a variety of things to try. I love that approach. Again, I don't know if this is her intention, but something that I loved about that approach of how launch 1 and launch 2 differed in that way is if you know you like something, you're more inclined to buy it again. And you're probably less inclined if you don't have the budget to buy anything else if you only have the budget to buy one thing. So you're probably less likely to try something new if you have a limited budget. So only dropping the new thing gives you an opportunity to try something else. If we only have a couple of products dropping each time, we're not, and I compare it to Forever 21, if you've ever been in that store, or H&M, we're not inundated with stuff where it's almost like, goodness, I don't even know what I want to buy because there's almost too many options. I can't really understand the brand identity because I'm overwhelmed. I'm overstimulated on your site. Knowing that they plan to scale the business and increase their product line, giving us these launches here and there, where it's just consolidated products here and there, we get a chance to not only build our view of the brand, but enjoy the products as they're released. So eventually, when they do have 1,000,001 products, we'll be familiar with them all. We won't feel overstimulated because it will be familiar. We'll be able to try different things at different times, but she's allowing us and our interests to grow with the brand. I feel like that's a great way to build a connection with her supporters and her customers as well. She also pointed out how With Love Meghan really highlights certain products. So observing what the demand will be is a continued process because there are so many elements contributing to that. And then lastly, she mentioned how they're not selling internationally yet. So the inventory is moving in a way that they did not anticipate, with people deploying workarounds like stocking up for those who purchase here in America and then shipping them to friends overseas who may not have access to them or be able to purchase. So I love that they're recognizing people are going to get your product. People are not allowing silly little things like customs to stop them from trying your product. But that also just speaks to the demand for it, how incredible that is. And I love that at some point she will be selling internationally, and she knows that the customers will be there waiting. So they're using these experiences. As she said, this is a year of learns. They're using these experiences to learn and adapt.
As you think about expansion for As Ever, obviously there's global appeal that you could tap into, and there's also stores. Right now, you're direct to consumer. Can we expect to see some of your stuff maybe in like a Target?
The retail component is so important, especially in growing a business, but also my intention with As Ever is getting back to things that are tactile, how we connect with each other. You want to put your hands on it. How does it feel? And you can only convey so much of that, obviously, in videos or in e-commerce. So my intention would be to have really bespoke, small retail collaborations, do some interesting ones as well in global territories. And then, of course, as you think about scaling, you know, it's a brand that's accessible, but it still has a quality that feels as though it's masstige. And so when we think about larger retailers, I think in the next couple of years, that would make sense.
I'm curious what you think about other formats that are not digital. Have you considered a cookbook? Could we expect that in the future? Maybe a magazine? What do you think?
I love paper. Again, the sentimentality of what happens. We all have those cards or issues of a magazine that you've held on to for so long for whatever reason. And yes, of course, digital is how people are consuming media, but I do think we can start new trends. And I love a classic. I love things that are, dare I say, vintage inspired, but for our kids, they would think a magazine probably feels a bit vintage. I'd love to be able to combine all of my loves that really are a little bit more old school into that type of forum. So I would say never say never.
That's great.
A couple of things that I took away from this sit down or this portion of the interview was I really appreciate that Meghan recognized that not only are the possibilities for As Ever broad, but With Love has potential with the holiday special to continue to be part of the As Ever branding and marketing, which is also fun because that means we might get more content after the holiday special, which she gave a very ambiguous answer when asked about season 3. And I think a lot of that is going to depend on the holiday special and what else she has coming down the pipeline. Think about last year when people, I'm also part of people, when people were like, we can't wait to have a season 2 of Polo. And I would love to have a season 2 of Archetypes. And I would love to have a season 2 of Live to Lead. All of those, I'm in there too, because, you know, I like their content. And people were basically talking about the things that they've already done. But we had no idea that in January, Meghan would be coming back to social media. We had no idea that Meghan had Confessions of a Female Founder and she would have several interviews coming down the pipeline. Most of us did not know that. We had no idea that she would be releasing not 1, but 2 different beverages. We had no idea that she would be releasing products necessarily. When we saw those patents come out last year, again, we've kind of learned to just experience it in the way that it unfolds. And I think that's what makes, as a fan base, as a support group, as a customer base now, I think that's what makes our experience enjoyable because most of us are adults and we know the value in a well-crafted marketing rollout. We know the value in a well-crafted product or service and the things that people put intention behind. We're more apt to be patient and wait for the experience because it's that much sweeter. Not only does it respect the creator or the company or the brand or whatever, but it respects ourselves because they presented this to us in a certain way so that we could have that sweet experience. So we are, as a group, now that doesn't cover all individuals. Obviously, that's not a blanket generalization, but as a group, more often than not, we will acknowledge something without going too far off the deep end and try to piece together the puzzles. We'll typically just say, this sounds like this could be this. Looking forward to what it turns out to be. And I feel like that is what's made this year so enjoyable, being a fan of hers, because and a supporter of her products and services. But we're not services, child, her product and her brand. But because last year we got that patent list, we heard about the hullabaloo about the name. We heard about all these very small details, but we didn't know, and we discussed it. But at the end of the day, we were like, this is what it could be. Here's my opinion. But again, we don't know, and we'll wait and see. Only for this year, not only did we get clarity on all of those things, we are getting to experience a full-on rollout. And right when we're at the very beginning of what looks to be a very beautiful and bright future for As Ever, we're learning that there are more things on the horizon. To say that we are spoiled is an understatement. We're getting content, audio content, visual content. We're getting customers. We're getting products, and not just a standard product. We're getting products with care. As a brand, let's take Meghan out of this picture for just a second. As a brand, let's say As Ever existed on its own on an island and we had no idea who the founder was. Let's say it just popped up one day. I feel like we would still have very much the same excitement about the products themselves. It might not be as visible, but I do feel like once discovered, we would have the same excitement about the products because they're created with care. And to be fair, just like she said in this interview, it's okay to set new trends. I know that social media and the internet is a big part of marketing, but we don't have to do just that. We can set new trends. And she's right about being innovative. If As Ever was a brand outside of Meghan, it would also be appreciated in the same way. Again, it might not be as visible because we know about it because it is hers. But if she weren't in the picture and we discovered it, I feel like the products would still hit the same. And the reason for that is because they're created with care. And again, her whole stance of, we can set new trends. I feel like it is a breath of fresh air in the current marketplace right now, because how many brands can you pinpoint that are actually making things with care and with intention and having these very intentional rollouts and these very special curated moments? And we're being marketed to, but we're not being oversold. We're not being car salesman sold. And that's an archetype. That's just like an example, but obviously car salesmen are great people. But I'm saying like that whole hike up your pants, roll up your sleeves. Let me show you what's in tent number 3. Like that energy. I hate it. I repel salespeople. I hate it so much. But because of that, we're seeing Meghan create these, and I kind of get the word delicate in my mind when I say this, but create these products that are just delicately and intentionally made, presented to us in a very thoughtful, slow and paced and well-priced manner. Again, every aspect of her products and brand has been considerate of her customer and support base. At no point has she said, empty them wallets. And she could. She absolutely could. She could have priced her wine $100 more and it would have sold out. You cannot convince me otherwise. So I say that to say, in the marketplace right now, she is being innovative by creating products with care, being intentional about the rollouts, being very mindful and consolidating these launches to just a few products. She's not inundating us. Even having the different products and different launches, things that we know she's already made, like the raspberry spread, weren't on the second launch when we got the apricot spread. But again, it keeps it exciting. And I love every aspect of it, but it also shows how intentional she and the As Ever team are actually being. And as far as being innovative, we're not really seeing that in a whole lot of other places. I would say another brand that's doing something similar is Sacred, Beyonce's brand. Sacred is doing a wonderful job of being very intentional with the products, being very intentional with the launches, being very intentional with the supply, and being very mindful of the marketing. They're not overselling their customer base. They're just presenting to us these wonderful, thoughtful products given to us or presented to us in a very thoughtful way and very well-priced way. And so I think that's why both of those brands will continue to go far. I also love that while a cookbook would be wonderful, I also love that she left the space open for that. Again, if you haven't read Meghan's cookbook that she made with the Hub Community Kitchen, feel free to check that out. It's called Together, and I will tag it in the product list below because it's available in all these places. So you can buy it directly below the video. But aside from that, this is a territory. This is a territory that Meghan is familiar with, but also it's an alignment with her brand and her other products. It's an alignment with her show. It's definitely part of her interests. She loves to cook. She talks about that a lot, and it's a huge part of With Love Meghan. So a cookbook would make sense. But here's the thing that I was thinking about when that came up. She was ambiguous about the answer, which, okay, that set off a few signals in my mind. But she was pretty ambiguous about the answer. But something that I thought about, should she choose to do a cookbook, a wonderful time to launch that would be at the conclusion of With Love Meghan. So if they choose to bring it back for a season 3, 4, or 5, what have you, after its final season, wouldn't that be a wonderful way to bid farewell to such a wonderful show? Like, okay, thanks for being on this journey with me. Here is everything in one solid place. You can buy these and do this at home while you watch along with me. That would be so freaking cool. Because again, it would just leave us wanting more. Now, if the holiday special is the last iteration of With Love Meghan, which, God, I hope not. But I can't ask her to overwork herself. The girl's busy. But if the holiday special is the last iteration of that show, that would be a wonderful thing to drop right before Christmas, because I would absolutely buy 10 and gift them to everybody that I know, or everybody that I know would appreciate it. So anyway, there's so many possibilities. Not only has As Ever in less than a year made such a huge impact, but there are so many possibilities. There's a lot of potential moving forward. We know that there's a possibility for cookware and dinnerware and serveware and home goods. She's talked about that, and candles. And I even thought of stationery when she was talking about the love of a handwritten note. I was thinking about stationery would be wonderful coming from Meghan, because she is known for handwritten notes. She's known for that. And anytime she writes a handwritten note, because of her monogram, people post it online and it becomes a trending topic worldwide. So that would be in line. Again, I guess I say all this to say this interview was just a reminder. One, it gave us clarity on a lot of things, gave us insight, but it's also a reminder that there is so much more to come. Is this not a very fun and wild ride? These are the kinds of surprises that I like. This is the kind of journey that I like to be on. And when people present a well thought out marketing rollout and a well thought out product line, and they just present their brand with care, it just makes the experience that much better for all of us. So kudos to her, kudos to everyone from As Ever, and kudos to everyone at Netflix who knows a good deal, a good thing when they have it. And I can't wait to see what comes next. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comment below. Okay, so that was a lot of information in one segment. I just kind of got on a tangent. I get really passionate about just good business in general, and I think it has to do with that music is loud as heck. I think it has to do with the fact that a large portion of my career was helping e-commerce companies scale, and God, I love that. I loved it so much. And I was doing it at a time pre-COVID, like 2015 is when I began doing that kind of work. And I did it all the way up until 2019. And I got a chance to work with some great companies, but I did it at a time where e-commerce was already a thing, but it wasn't anywhere near where it is now. COVID really pushed that industry forward in a big way. But at the time, we were still learning about the industry on its own and going to trade shows and all this kind of stuff, buying out closeouts and stuff like that, and flipping them on the site and working with brands and vendor relationships. So it was such an early thing that I got to learn a lot, but I love the industry of e-commerce. And when I decided to switch into healthcare or mental health care, it was hard to say goodbye because I loved it, but I wanted to do something that I felt was filling my soul as well as my pocket and my brain. So that was where I had to go. But anyway, I think this is such a really great space for Meghan. I think it's cool how she's found a way to translate her interests not only into content, but into product that resonates with her. It can be really easy. Like I said before, it can be easy to just stick your face on a product when you know your face will sell out 1 million units overnight. And she must have a great deal of integrity. She has to have a great deal of integrity to not just make some really quick bucks. And I appreciate her for that, because she recognizes the importance of being true to herself, operating with integrity, but also not only having self-respect, but respect for other people. And I think that's what is essentially her North Star, because imagine if you or other celebrities were as marketable as Meghan, what kind of crazy products we would see. Could you imagine? Now, I know the Kardashians are marketable, not shading them at all. They are money makers. They are certified business women, and they are good at what they do. No shade to them when it comes to the world of business, but they are marketable, but I don't think they have the same type of marketability as Meghan. And could you imagine if they had the Meghan effect on their side? Child, we would see energy drinks, we would see thumbnails, we would see sewing kits, and we would see all kinds of products, condoms, shoelaces, like they would monetize every single thing if they knew it would sell 1 million units in an hour. And so it's great that although Meghan is probably, I would venture to say she's the most marketable woman in the world right now. I'm not seeing anything close to the Meghan effect from anyone else. And that's saying something, because I ascribe to a lot of different brands and public figures and celebrities. And I really like to support people's art form and creativity and their businesses. But I don't know that we've seen anything like Meghan since Diana. So, that's insane to me. Even when they try to, no offense to anyone, even when they try to market someone else in her extended in-law family as being comparable to her, she has her dedicated fan base over there. You know who I'm referencing. She has her dedicated fan base, but it is nowhere near the global appeal, the likability, the on-trend and innovative, I should say. And also just hitting those style cues. Meghan's style is something that we've watched evolve, but it just keeps getting better. And it's never been bad. So she has a lot of opportunities in a lot of spaces, not just with As Ever, but anything else she chooses to do. The sky is truly the limit. And I appreciate, because she is kind of private, I appreciate her sharing from her perspective as a founder, this information. She could easily just be like, I'm good. I'm not going to really talk a lot, especially with how often people just get at her, which anyway, I have had enough videos where I talked about those people. So let's just move on. We're going to keep it positive. But especially with how often people are just so freaking eager to be mad at her, I don't know that I would be that courageous and that brave. And that's why I say I think she's a really good inspiration and someone to really model after, because she's shown bravery in ways that a lot of people could not. She's had to face some pretty big monsters, and she's managed to do it without ever losing herself. Teach me, lady, teach me. But I just find her and her business acumen to be quite compelling. And I love that she's sharing it not only here, but she also shared it on Emma Greed's podcast. And we got the People Magazine and the Financial Times interview. We've had a lot of opportunities to learn more about Meghan, the businesswoman, and we're just getting started. I also like that as she learns and builds, she brings her supporters with her. Like, it just feels like we're all in this together, which I think is a really smart thing to do from a marketing perspective and as a businesswoman. But also I think it's just, she recognizes the impact that her supporters have had and the impact she has had on her supporters. And I just think that's great. It's a really great mutual relationship. But anyway, I'm not going to talk y'all's ear off. Let's get to some comments. Hi, SKTO1W. Martha Stewart did several themed cookbooks while her show was airing, many of which I own. Hint, hint, Meghan. Okay. Yep, that's true. She absolutely did. I love the ambiguity around whether or not the show will come back, but I can't say that my fingers aren't cramped from having them twisted like this. I keep my fingers crossed like, come on, Meghan, you know you can do it. Just find the time, clone yourself, make it happen, girl. But that's just me and the woes of being pretty selfish when it comes to her content. Hi, EB Lynn 35. EB Lynn says, I think she is going to do more speaking engagements. I noticed that a WME representative was seen with her while they were in New York and Washington, D.C. You know, ever since she hooked up with WME, it has just been a marriage of benefit. We have just gotten so many amazing things. And again, I cannot reiterate enough how we are just getting started. Some of the things that Meghan has managed to do in just a few years take a lifetime for a lot of people. So it's just cool to see her hit the ground running. And she's fully in the swing of things. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel, VV6NP. Gwendolyn Daniel says, love Meghan's outfit. It was gorgeous, pencil skirt and beautiful blouse. It was absolutely stunning. I love how she has her signature and she has her staples and her look. Like you can see a look and determine if that's a Meghan look. That looks like Meghan would wear. But I love how she's giving us different looks and different moods and different energy. Like she's really serving up different, not even personas, just different looks each time, from the hair, the makeup, the clothes. While they all look like her, we're getting such different looks, and we're getting so many cool things, like from the Balenciaga Paris, the Balenciaga show, to New York on the red carpet, to the next day at the festival, to today or yesterday at the summit. We're getting different looks, and she's doing different things with her hair, with her jewelry, with her makeup, and it just seems like a lot of fun. I absolutely love the looks that she has been serving. Sorry about that. Hi, Colette McCullough. It's good to see you. Colette McCullough says, did any squatties vote for Meghan's podcast? I did. It was actually under some of my videos. When that was first announced that she was nominated, it was the first link under my videos. And I voted a few times. And so I know a lot of people did. I got a lot of comments that they were voting. But I'm really, really, really happy that she won. She absolutely deserves it. Now, one thing about the squatties, while we are very supportive, we are not liars. Meghan's content is just good. It's just good content, not just because it's Meghan, but she just knows what people want to hear. And she kind of knows what's needed in the marketplace. Like her podcast doesn't sound like every other business podcast. It doesn't sound like every other common interest or public interest podcast. It's very unique and enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Gwendolyn says, love Meghan's shoes, but I would have broken an ankle. You know what? One of the things that I love about really, really high heels is when they have like some kind of ankle strap, is that helps balance me, because when they're 4 inches or up, timber when it comes to me. Did I ever tell y'all? Probably not. About a time I started a job. I'll make it quick. Back in 2012 or 2012, I started a new job at this place called Meridian. They've since rebranded, but it was Meridian Business Centers in Dallas. And they do this whole 2-week training session for their CSRs, and it is thorough. And it's actually how I modeled a bunch of my corporate training programs after it. They are thorough. And I was at the last day, and I happened to be assigned the center with Tasha Bontrager. She was the VP, I think, at the time. And then also our HR representatives, like all the big wigs, with the exception of the owner, Flip, were in my center. So I didn't have any room for error. And so at the time, my manager, Carly, had asked me to go and grab something. It is 4:55. And I'm just like, cool, very easy end of day. I just finished training. I'm so excited. This is a great job. Child, tell me why I turned that corner into the hallway and I was wearing wedges, and they were little cheap wedges. I had to wait until I got my first check to really get some good clothes. So I bought some little cheap wedges, and I just completely fell and bust my face. The whole heel just peeled, and I was down on the ground, and it was a little Rue 21 heel. Shout out to them. But I was down, and I was wearing a skirt. And so I hopped up real quickly fixed myself, limped to get the box that she was asking for, and limped back. And I was trying to walk very cute so that she didn't see the big ass flap of my wedge. And when I turned the corner, I guess I didn't get myself together enough, because apparently my ponytail, I had a half up, half down. It was just forward. I had a hair sticking here, forward pony, broken heel. My skirt was hiked up on the side. And when I turned the corner, she said, "Did you get beat up?" And so I told her what happened, and she laughed and was like, "Just go home, girl. You've had a good 2 weeks. You're doing a good job. Just go home and relax and put some ice on the ankle." That was the first and last time I bought some cheap heels. At this point now, I just wait until I can get the real heels that's going to sustain me, because I was so embarrassed. And then it didn't help when I came home. I lived with my mom at the time, and I came home and walked in. She said, "Well, damn, what happened to your shoe?" And I was like, "You couldn't even let me get in the door." So anyway, I learned my lesson about having heels that are too high and having heels that are too high that are cheap as dirt. Always just buy the quality. And I didn't have what Meghan wore in 2012 to reference when it came to the right heels to buy. So I was just out here trying to survive. But anyway, I have learned a thing or two about buying cheap clothes and cheap heels. Hi, Colette McCullough. Right? Colette McCullough says, the Royals are absolutely on fire right now. They absolutely are. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, I tend to ignore their coverage, but obviously because of my line of work, I see a lot of stuff. they're not getting very favorable headlines. Even some of their staples have been kind of low-key turning on them. I've been seeing more negative headlines about those two than I have in a long time. The tide is certainly turning. Hi, Prudence Montag. Prudence says, I think the masses did vote here, there, and everywhere throughout the world. Yes, absolutely. I agree. It was just a good podcast. Everybody enjoyed that podcast, and I was enjoying the conversations that it was spawning online as well. Prudence says, Gwendolyn, me and you both with those heels. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie says, oh no, good recovery. Thank you. Oh man, that was so embarrassing. Oh, every time I think about that, the only thing I'm grateful for is that there wasn't like a client in the hall and that I fell, but no one saw me. I don't know that I would have survived that. I probably would have just had to act like I was really hurt and call an ambulance, sell it so nobody can laugh at you. I would have had to really pull some stunts. Gwendolyn Daniel says, I know the feeling, Sharon. We all got to survive. Carol Smith. Hey, Carol Smith. Carol Smith says, I heard Limonada was sold to a Swedish company. Anyone else heard this? Thanks for saying something about that. I'm actually going to look into that because I have not heard that. Limonada sold? Okay, I'm typing it so that I can look it up. But thanks for saying that. I'll find out. Hi, Prudence Montax. All of us women had the same thing happening to us. What's that? The heels? Oh, no. I was hoping it was just me being clumsy. I hope y'all haven't had the same experience. We're in this together. Hi, Mina Ruth. It's good to see you. Mina Ruth says, I said a long time ago that the media was going to turn against the petty family. The thing about being in bed with thieves is that, one, there is no loyalty or honesty amongst thieves. And two, when you build a relationship on feeding a beast, it has to eat. And so whether you're selling stories, whether you're gossiping, and this goes not just for the royals, but for people in general, I learned a thing or two growing up about starting relationships based on common enemies and on gossip. It won't sustain because you always have to feed the beast. You have to return to the impetus of the union to begin with. And so that symbiotic relationship between the tabloids and the royals, while it suited them when they had primed and ready targets that were essentially sitting ducks and they were mistreating Harry, Meghan, and baby Archie, they had it made. But now that Harry, Meghan, and baby Archie and baby Lily have gone on about their lives and they're making real headlines based in fact and truth, and they're making moves out here in the business world, philanthropy, humanitarianism, the beast still needs to be fed. And that's the problem with those kinds of relationships. And that's exactly what they get. You have to feed the beast. So if you no longer have access to Harry and Meghan, we can only make up so many lies. We need some kind of input. We need some kind of stories. We need you to feed us something. And unfortunately, we have set a precedent that we are going low, and we're going low for a long time. No longer is Sarah Ferguson tea and Andrew tea going to feed us. We need real stuff. And if you're not going to give it, we will take it. And that's exactly what I see happening. And that's exactly what they get. That's exactly, you have to feed the beast. And that's exactly why you don't even start that. And I say this too, just like with gossip, when you start a relationship on hating the same person or gossip, if they're talking about them with you, they're talking about you with them or with someone else. I have learned my lesson. I had high school to learn that, and I never needed to learn it again. When you build relationships on sordid behavior and energy, you have to keep that up. And it is draining. Nobody wins. Hi, Veronica Quick. Veronica says, yes, I voted for her podcast. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I did too. Y'all, we really contributed to that, but it's just a good podcast. Hi, Kim Coates. Kim Coates says, ladies, my 4-inch heel days are over. I'm now queen of the kitten heels. You know what? I'm proud of you because sometimes we have to we learn to do it gracefully or we have to fall down on our faces to learn. Good thing you learned without being hard-headed. Learn from my pain. Hi, Carol Smith. Carol Smith says, heard Emma Grede was nominated for an award. Wasn't sure which category she was nominated for, if it was the same as Meghan. I voted for Meghan the same day the ad went up and vote. Nice. You know what? I haven't checked. I will look because Emma Grede's podcast is good too. Hi, Prudence. Prudence says, our Lord said, how long shall the wicked reign over my people? Absolutely. It sure is. And I hate to be negative, but it is good to see the tide turn a little bit. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, I'm so happy that our Princess Meghan won the award for her podcast. Me too. I absolutely agree. Hi, V. Thomas. V. Thomas says, I had similar experience with the heels at church. Oh, no, you fell down in front of the Lord. Thank God I had flats in the car. I almost fell, but I caught myself. Okay, good. Now see, I thought I had it bad. And you know how sometimes church people can gossip a little bit. I don't know that I would have survived that. I would have been really embarrassed. At least I fell down alone, but I would have been so embarrassed. I'm so glad that you were able to catch yourself. I love that we all have the universal experience of learning where our limit was when it came to high heels. All right, so we have another segment. I wanted to go in deeper and a little bit more with dissecting this interview at this summit. So don't forget to keep the conversation going on the other side, and we will continue when I return.
Can you talk a little bit too about the show and how it matches with As Ever, the brand, and Netflix's role in this? And that partnership just renewed with slightly different terms. I'm wondering if you could talk about what are the terms now and how has that helped you build As Ever?
Yes, well, my husband and I were in an overall deal with Netflix, and then not dissimilar to Higher Ground and the Obamas deal. Once that had come to its term, the extension of it, which was such an incredible sign of the strength of our partnership, was now being in a first look deal. It gives us flexibility to go to our partners first, and then at the same time to be able to shop content that might not be the right fit for Netflix, but has a home somewhere else. You have female executive leadership that is so supportive of me as an entrepreneur. What we've designed is being able to have so much robust support in year one, where you have the show complementing the brand, where content and commerce are meeting, and then still enabling me to have autonomy to build out my own team and scale it in the way that I envision. The business will, of course, go on longer than a series, but it's really been a partnership that I'm grateful for.
In this part of the conversation, Meghan gives details into her and Harry's Netflix deal, their second deal with Netflix, which is now a first look deal. Now, she discussed the many benefits to having a first look deal. She cited the autonomy, the ability to shop content around that may have a better home elsewhere. But she also talked about this partnership and this first look deal being a wonderful sign of the strength of their partnership. And I think it's so great that Harry and Meghan always give me reasons to say, I told you so. That's just a little gift from them to me, because on August 11th, we discussed the first look deal and we literally cited all of those benefits. So it's great to hear her cite those benefits as things that she was looking forward to, because those are things that we went in depth ad nauseum about when it comes to first look deals, and also it being a beacon of how strong their partnership with Netflix actually is. But I feel like we didn't even need the Netflix deal to reiterate that, considering one, they have so much successful content on their platform already, but two, Netflix went out of their way to partner with Meghan on As Ever. That's actually a first of its kind. So they're not only working together, but they're taking chances on Harry and Meghan that are innovative. Do you know what type of clout and what type of relationship and what type of trust you have to have in someone or an entity to be innovative with them, especially when they're not part of your organization? It's one thing to take a chance on something that's been proven. For example, if Harry and Meghan were to have a deal with Disney or with Hulu or with Amazon or whatever, and they've released content that broke records, and then Netflix was like, hey, we want your next deal. When that one's up, come over here. That's not really taking a chance. That's just good business. But Meghan had not sold product. Now, we're not talking about the Meghan effect where she inadvertently sells things out. I'm talking about she had not presented a brand and sold product under that brand. And Netflix not only were at the inception of As Ever, but they're partnered with her and she still has autonomy. Do you know what type of trust they have to have in her? And that's just a testament to, one, how well they work together while making content for the past 5 years, but also things to come. They're willing to take a chance on her because, one, they know we're going to sell it out. But also, two, they know Meghan and Harry are extremely marketable. And they know Meghan and Harry know what they're doing. You can see a lot of very famous people who have huge platforms and have really strong customer bases. You can see them all over the world, but that doesn't mean they can sell content. That doesn't mean they can make content. That doesn't mean they can make products that people want or sell and trust. And so all of these things in mind, it's very clear that not only do Netflix know good business, they have a great deal of trust in Harry and Meghan to go out on a limb and be willing to be innovative with them. And in the last segment, I talked about how Meghan is extremely innovative and how she doesn't necessarily follow the beaten path. If it works for her, great, but she's great about looking at things and determining whether it's right for her and the message she wants to send to the world. And I feel like that's a testament beyond business. I think that's a testament to all of us, something that we can all take away, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's family, whether it's spiritual, what have you, really charting the path that makes sense for us. Because Meghan could have easily said, hey, I want a product that I know will fly off the shelves and that's needed right now and the marketplace is yearning for it. Just stick my face on it. Let's do it. No, she was extremely intentional. And there were years where she really wasn't in the public eye that much. And she knew that people were fiending for a sighting from her. And she didn't commodify her image or commodify her sightings or attendance. She still lived her life in the way that made sense for her and her family, despite what the demand for her dictated, despite what her fans necessarily wanted or were willing to pay for. She took her time, she executed on a very high level, but she did everything at all touch points with thought and with care. But at the helm of that, she's always considering whether or not this makes sense for me. I am not a public figure, and I know what it feels like when people reach out to me, which happens a lot, reach out to me and say, hey, this is something I would like for you to do on your YouTube, or this is something I'd be willing to pay for you to talk about in your video or whatever. And, brand deals happen, and I've had a couple, but I haven't tapped into nearly as many as have been offered to me, just because, again, doing things with thought and intention. And sometimes I have a moment where I'm like, it wouldn't hurt. Like, you have a moment where you look back and like, did I miss an opportunity? And then later you get something even better that's more aligned. So I've never come to regret it, but there were moments where I was like, am I passing up on good opportunities, being self-righteous? And it can come with a lot of doubt. And I listened to this podcast called the Friend Zone Podcast, and there's a woman on there named Hey Friend Hey. I think her name is Francesca. And she often talks about her journey in social media, discussing wellness topics and charting her experience in, I think she had an illness, and she started talking about ways she used her diet to help alleviate the symptoms of that illness. And people just started to follow her and they liked her. And then she eventually got a podcast and a YouTube, and it blew up for her. But something she talks about being intentional with is what she chooses to advertise, the way she chooses to market herself, and the brand partnerships she decides to go in on. And she talked about sometimes things are top dollar. And sometimes you just know this is going to make a lot of money. But if you can't live with yourself, and if you are willing to risk the relationship you have with the people who enjoy your content, then it's probably not best that, one, you're even in that position, or two, you're going to burn out quick, because people know a flash in the pan. People know when they're being manipulated and taken advantage of. And so for a lot of people, they go for the dollar and not the integrity. And so while it would be wonderful to cash in on every freaking brand deal they give, I also don't want my channel to be a billboard. I don't want it to be one of those billboards at the arenas that just flash crap the whole time. Geez, it's so annoying. And so I recognize that in other creators and other content creators and other business people, when they operate with integrity and they decide, like, while this would probably make a lot of money, and while this would probably make me more visible or get more eyes on my channel or make more people want to work with me, etc. While this might be great for business, this isn't great for me. And let's move in alignment where the things that we do are aligned with both. And so by looking, and I say that to say, the content that Harry and Meghan have is our first clue into how they operate, which again is probably why Netflix loves working with them. They bring a new perspective, a fresh perspective. They bring a new type of content on a number of fronts. For example, what other content do you know that's similar to Live to Lead? What other content do you know that's similar to Polo? What other content do you know that's similar to Harry and Meghan, the docuseries? They give a fresh perspective. And so while there may be other things related in the genre, there is the Harry and Meghan quality of it all, the Harry and Meghan perspective of it all. And of course, the Harry and Meghan execution with thought and with care and with integrity of it all. And so we can easily whittle this down to, well, she's a famous person. She's marketable. She's beautiful. She has a huge fan base. Of course, she's going to make a lot of money. That is not necessarily true. And no shade to anyone. I'm not trying to insult anyone. There are a lot of successful people in a lot of arenas, and that doesn't always mean that they'll be successful in every arena. But you take someone, and I'm going to compare in the great room when they were coming up with that. And so I was whistling when I walked by and they took that as inspiration. Like they can't, they have a unique voice. They have an excellent track record and an excellent execution. But I think at its crux, the reason they have been so successful, aside from the skill set and all the other things, they operate with integrity and they have something to say. They're not making content for the sake of making content. They're not going into business deals for the sake of just having a business deal. And I think we also saw an example of this in Spare when Prince Harry discussed them stepping back and finally making it to California and just recalibrating, regrouping, and how they just basically put everything out on the table and were like, and that's figurative language. But they put everything out and just like, okay, where do we start? Our relationships, our charities, my relationships with these organizations that do philanthropic work, my philanthropic work. They started there. They assured their partners in a number of arenas. They followed through despite their world crashing around them, despite them being in grave freaking danger as a married couple and new parents. They had the world on their shoulders, but in Spare, you heard how they prioritized the people who were in need still. Even when they were in some ways also people in need, they were still thinking about those organizations and the people that were depending on them, and they executed, they rebuilt from the ground up. And while, not to go off on one of my many tangents, but while that is admirable and beautiful, and while I will forever condemn the royal family for what they did to Harry, Meghan, and little Archie, I will forever condemn them, and I will always stand by it should not have happened. Not in that way, not anything similar, not even a fraction of the things that happened to Harry and Meghan should have happened. Let me make that very clear. At the same time, nuance. Because those things happened, and they could have come to this experience in another way, but because those things happened and because their journey dictated that they live in the way that they do, they can credit every single grain of success to their own calloused hands. And there is nothing like, and when we talk about autonomy in every arena is power. They can't credit Meghan can't, the royals can't credit themselves for Harry and Meghan's success in any shape, form, or fashion. They cannot say, oh, that relationship was built through us. They can't say, oh, we introduced them to Netflix, or we gave them that idea, or hey, they were here at Kensington in the great room when they were coming up with that. And so I was whistling when I walked by and they took that as inspiration. Like they can't even, because what they tried to do was publicly harm and humiliate them, they made those separations and they dug that well so deep that they can't even imply that they had anything to do with the massive success that Harry and Meghan have seen and have created since they walked away. And what was meant to humiliate them and hurt them, and in my opinion, what was intended to kill them, what was meant to stop them on a very public scale, ended up being the very thing that solidified them as the titans that they are. Because look at them go. Look at them completely unleashed. They don't have to worry about protocols. They don't have to worry about BS. They don't have to worry about leaks. They don't have to worry about false stories. Now, because of where they live and because of how they operate, we know, and the world knows, whether they want to admit it or not, anything that comes out from a source, etc., we know good and damn well Harry and Meghan have no problem talking directly to us. So it doesn't grow legs like it used to. So they're able to not only operate with fierceness and with integrity, because that's their, and honestly, let's also go back to the integrity thing. There's no way that they wouldn't have ended up leaving the royals at some point. Now, seeing what we have seen, I am convinced that even if the separation had been amicable, it was absolutely on the horizon because they were meant for bigger things. And while, sure, those things could have come about in another way, we are nothing if not challenged. And what makes us who we are is the way we overcome those challenges. And while they had some big challenges, my goodness, look what it rendered. And they're just getting started. And so I say that they never would have survived in the royals in that way because they operate with integrity. At some point, they would have found themselves at a crossroad if they weren't already there, aside from the abuse they experienced. So I said all that to say they both have a very unique voice. And so for Netflix to quote unquote take a chance on them, it wasn't really a chance. It wasn't really a chance. Netflix knows good business. For them to see the execution on such a high level with the content and then go in with the brand, and now we're doing the first look deal. the relationship is getting stronger. The content is, we're getting more content on the horizon, and things are continuing to prosper and grow. And just like last year, we had no idea we were getting As Ever. We had no idea we were getting Napa Valley Rosé. We had no idea that we were getting a Sauvignon Blanc, any of the spreads, the marmalades, the tea. We had no idea we were getting any of this. Meghan going back to social media. We had no idea. We can only assume, but we had no idea. I can only imagine, based on the little Easter eggs that were shared in this interview, I can only imagine what's on the horizon. So rumble, young woman, rumble. Proud of you.
Will we be seeing a season 3 of With Love, Meghan? Will it be on Netflix? Do we know?
Well, the holiday special is coming out in November. So we're able to say 8 episodes for 2 seasons. It's a lot of work. And having done Suits for 7 years, I remembered what goes into a production. I also recognize how much people want content in different sizes. So part of what we're testing out now is, it's amazing to be able to sit and watch a show for 30 minutes, but how can I give you a recipe in 2 minutes? So exploring all the options of what it could look like.
So that actually left me wanting more. Like, what are you cooking up, Meghan? I mean, she said they're looking at different options for how to share her content and where to share her content and how much of her content. Now, what I will say is, I am 38 years old. I am from a time where we would set the timer to come back in the house at a certain time to see our favorite programs. And that was award shows. That was our favorite episodes of a TV show. I mean, this might be a surprise to anyone under the age of 30, but there was a time where you couldn't get the whole season of a show in one go. We got it episode by episode, and sometimes it lasted 30 weeks throughout the year. And we would get teasers, little commercials of what was to come. And we had to wait a whole week in some cases. And so my group, elder millennials and older, we're comfortable being patient. And so with that said, I love long form content. I know that she's talking about what's popular today, because honestly, I'm not the main demo as far as what's trending in media today, because I'm old school. I have all my favorite shows on DVD. But with that said, I know that she's talking about quicker ways to show her content in shorter formats, but I love long form content. There is nothing to me like just sitting down with a good snack, kicking my feet up and just watching a full hour-long show or 30-minute show or shows back to back. I like the long form. So I hope regardless of what they do, we do still have that option. And if we don't, we still have seasons 1 and 2 of With Love. So it's not like we won't have anything, but I like the long form content, but I am curious about what's to come. The options are endless. Okay, so let me get to some of the comments. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie says, gift wrapping while sipping As Ever wine. Can't wait. You know what? Yes, that is going to be so timely too, because I don't know if y'all saw my Christmas episode a couple of years ago when I was wrapping gifts on camera. And I was like, I'm not good at this. I'm going to learn right along with y'all. The way those little ratty tatty gifts were, it's the thought and the love that counted. But yeah, I hope she did say there would be some gift wrapping, and there is a little bit of gift wrapping on season 2 of With Love, Meghan. So I'm going to try to learn as best I can. I do not want to give my husband another gift that just looks like it's been hit by a semi truck. I tried my best. I'm glad he knows my heart. Hi, Novi D. Novi D says, I'm so proud of them. I get emotional every time. Me too. I'm very, very proud of them. It's something so endearing about knowing where someone has been and then watching them evolve and grow. It's just so cool to see where they have gone and what they've been able to do. And the only thing I will say, the only downside is, man, wouldn't it have been amazing if like Diana was like on the earth, like here, and actually able to not only see it for herself, but experience it with Harry, that getting away and just building a life. I know that has to be amazing to see, but I wish she was able to experience that with them. I mean, he kind of did the impossible. I don't know what I expected, but when I saw the whole thing going down, it's almost like I had no preconceived notions of what stepping away or stepping back would even look like. But seeing what they've done and how they have prospered, just hats off to them. It's also very difficult to go against a machine like that. And not only did they go against that machine, but they won and they prospered. And they made that machine, all involved, look like crap. Goodness gracious. Hi, E.B. Lynn. E.B. Lynn says Meghan has an awards program on October 15th. That's today. That was postponed because of the LA fires. Don't know the time or if it will air. Okay, I'll get more information about that. And if it isn't posted anywhere else, I'll post it as a post on my YouTube. Hi, Kim Coates. Kim Coates says, I don't know how to make these comments smaller, but y'all, all you see is my little eyes. I feel like, who was that next door neighbor on Boy Meets World? But Kim Coates says, loving Meghan's innovative spirit. You know, the unroyals across the pond are watching. They are probably watching like a hawk. They probably watch more than we do. They are obsessed with them. Probably pearl clutching because they have no clue what and when the next launch will be. And you know what? I know that they are over there waiting with bated breath for when she offers as ever internationally. I know they just as mad as everybody else. Like, dang it, I wanted to try the jam. Darn her. Honestly, your haters are often your biggest fans. That is just the truth. Scratch a hater, find a fan every time. Because if not, why are you expending so much energy? They are probably the first ones waiting in line when she offers it across the sea, overseas. Hi, Connie Balmer. Connie Balmer says, the more those weird people hate Meghan, the more the Lord blesses her. God is in control. Absolutely. All the energy expelled on her alchemizes to her and Harry's benefit. Absolutely. I could not agree more. Hi, SKT. SKT says, Emma Greed won a silver and best new podcast. That's amazing. Fantastic. Oh, that's wonderful. Good for her. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Gwendolyn says, Meghan is aging backwards. She's beautiful. She really is. She really is. She looks absolutely lovely. She just looks so refreshed. She looks like she's glowing. That's what happens when you have a lot of joy in your life. Hi, YM Droid. It's good to see you. Hey, YM Droid says, I'm glad she got a chance to say it in her own words rather than having the tabloid critters spin it in their own fact-free way. Okay, now YM Droid. I've complimented you on your word choice a lot. So it's no surprise that I just love your diction and how you use words. But fact-free is a new one for me, and I'm adopting this. I will credit you every time, but I love fact-free. Because how else can you describe it? Because they be lying their asses off. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. If they see Meghan, they're just like, insert BS here and publish, go. But it's so funny because it's almost like when it comes to Harry and Meghan, people just take their brains off. The same thing happened with the Spotify situation. Anytime contracts are involved, this very standardized practice and these very standardized contracts, people still bend the story as if we won't know any better. And I think I've said this before. I genuinely dislike when someone takes me for a fool. If you lie to me, good luck. I'm probably going to find out. But if you lie to me, I'm going to hate you forever. But if you lie to me and it's a stupid lie, I'm your enemy. Because now I think you think I'm stupid. And that's how the tabloids make me feel. I have a visceral rage against them because I feel like they think we're stupid. The things that they were creating out of the first look deal. And I'm like, do y'all not know what a first look deal is? And even prior to the announcement of the new Netflix deal, I think it was maybe a month of tabloids basically saying Netflix is done with Harry and Meghan and they've kicked them out on their arse and they're tired of them. And they were saying all kinds of nonsense. And I was like, I don't know everything. And I'm not a genius. But I do know some things, and something that I know is if I don't like something, I'm not going to initiate another relationship with that thing. And Netflix, the certified moneymaker that it is not known for doing bad business. They've been sued several times and they've come out victorious in a lot of those situations. And it's because they know good business and they know contracts and they can forecast. Something tells me that if they were really sick of Harry and Meghan, an award-winning duo, they have brought several awards and several successful pieces of content or forms of content to that platform. So why they would hate them, I don't know. But why they would then go in on another venture that was also innovative and first of its kind, if they were tired of Harry and Meghan, don't know. But they still ventured to feed us that BS. And that's what makes me mad about them. Fact-free is the best way to describe it because they will just throw anything on the page. And if their supporters had any sense, they would be just as offended. Like, I don't understand how, well, I do because they're not smart enough to be offended, but I don't understand how the derangers don't get irritated that they're being fed BS. Because obviously these things are easily proven, but they like believing it. Again, if they're okay looking a fool, then I love it. Go on with your bad self. Hi, Kat Harlem. Kat, thank you so much for the super chat. Kat Harlem says, hello, Sharion and Squatties. I'm late, but I made it to a live show. Thank you so much for being here. And oh my God, I love your hat. I love your hat. That is beautiful. The color, the shape, the size, that is gorgeous. I love that hat. Okay, y'all didn't come here for me to gawk at her fashion, but my goodness, it caught me off guard. That was beautiful. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie says, love how her opening sentence shut up the people saying it was not as good of a deal and the Obamas. Yes, again, everything was public. That's why I genuinely, how many times did Ted Sarandos have to tell us that they love working with Harry and Meghan? How many different ways did we have to talk about their contracts to recognize how much stock Harry and Meghan, not Harry and Meghan, Netflix was putting into Harry and Meghan? Clearly, they know business and they're very successful. I mean, even if you don't understand their contracts, the awards speak for themselves. They're breaking records. Anyway, those people were trying to manifest destruction for Harry and Meghan and ended up getting their faces cracked. Hi, YM Droid. Thank you so much for being a member for 27 months. Thank you. I really appreciate that. YM Droid says, Meghan succeeds because she doesn't have a problem helping others succeed. Say that again. The leftovers will never grasp that, so they'll continue to struggle. In the words of the icon Lanithia Leaks, you never win when you play dirty. That is some of the best advice. When you are showing up with integrity, you're operating from a heart-centered place, from an authentic place. And something my grandma used to say, if you operate in truth, you never have to dress up a lie. And that is so true. You don't have to worry about how you're perceived when you're operating authentically. And that's something that Harry and Meghan nail every time. Even when the truth may not make them look so great. Like Spare, for example, there were several things in Spare where Harry actually gave himself way more flack than he should have. There were things that he was trying to own, and it's just because of who he is. He's trying to be accountable, but there were things that he owned that I was like, Harry, this isn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong in this situation. You were actually very upstanding and very patient and very considerate and very accountable. But it's just who they are. They always try to operate with integrity and for the good of everyone around them, even when it comes to their detriment. And unfortunately, there were several instances that occurred at their detriment, but it's why they always prevail. They operate with a good, clean heart. In a nutshell, they operate with a good, clean heart. And that's why we have so many chances to talk about their successes, because once we finish talking about one, here come another one. I love that. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie says, thank you, Sharion, for keeping your channel thoroughly dressed in integrity and quality. Thank you so much. Well, it is my pleasure. I enjoy it. I've realized that my channel will not only represent the people I talk about, but it'll represent me too. And these videos will be on the internet forever, even if I delete them. So I want to always make sure I represent myself to the best of my ability. That's why when I look back on some of the fashions I've chosen to wear, those videos were privated because, girl, what the hell were you doing? But we live and we learn. We live and we learn. Hi, Kim Coates. Kim Coates says, so on point, Sharion. Meghan and Harry's projects are intentional and so very well thought out. The Unroyals remain too performative to even have a clue. I love that you put it in those words. Yes, they are so busy performing what success and importance looks like. And I'm saying that, they're trying to perform it, but they aren't it. They aren't being it. They're not embodying it, and they damn sure can't create it. So basically all they're doing is playing dress up, and a really bad rendition of success, if you ask me. It must suck for them, and they deserve it. It must suck for them to have historic and archaic history leading back so many years of family lineage that led them to this moment. And even that couldn't help them. They're still paling in comparison to Harry and Meghan, who are charting their own path, building their own brand, building their own persona. They are building a whole new definition of what public figureship is. That no, we'll just try it. We'll take it. Being a public figure looks like, and it's because they're operating from a heart-led place. And I think more people should do that. I completely agree. Hi, Vivi Mac. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Okay, we have another segment. In this one, I wanted to talk about, it's not as long, but in this one, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that Meghan said regarding women supporting women and empowerment. I just thought she had such insightful things to say. And it's actually funny that we just got the comment about them operating with integrity and doing right by people and working with other people, because in this next segment, Meghan actually talks about the power of supporting other people. And she's absolutely right.
using social media to pair content and commerce and promotion. You took a hiatus from Instagram. You came back.
January. Woo, it's changed.
You're back. You're in action, but you're not on TikTok. I'm
Not
curious.
yet.
Why, will you be going on TikTok?
I don't know. I mean, I think, look, I have had a very complicated relationship with social media. I also recognize the role that it plays in business. My husband and I spend a lot of time working on online harms, specifically surrounding protecting our children, not ours personally, but all of our children, for what they're susceptible to in the online space. So I'm sensitive to that. I also recognize that if you can show up in these spaces and be on the side of good, there is tremendous value in that also. So we're going to continue to expand the footprint in the social and digital space for the brand. For me personally, I don't know.
Obviously, people want to be hearing from you, but then they have lots of opinions that they stick in there that are not welcome, not helpful. How are you able to decipher out like the constructive from obviously the not constructive?
Well, there are certain things that I've done just for my own self-preservation, but also that I've applied to the brand and for the people that are incredibly supportive. I know, the question can be around naysayers, but if you really see the groundswell of support that surrounds the brand and me, that's what I feel the most, and that's what I appreciate. And so not just protecting myself or the people that work with me, but also the supporters. So I don't have the comment section on. That's a choice.
So you had a whole career very successful before you got married. You're having a whole other career now. What's the importance of financial independence to you?
Well, financial independence is what gives you the freedom of choice. And I think in this day and age, we all need to be able to have our autonomy. And as women, when we support each other, we are not simply supporting each other's lives, we're supporting each other's legacies. And that's the piece that's so powerful. When I'm supporting or investing in another female founder, I am investing in what she's going to do for the culture, for her business, the legacy she's going to leave, how that brand, if it's a CPG brand, is going to show up in people's homes. So it is all fundamentally important. And I don't think it's a conversation we should shy away from. I think it's one that we should really embrace together.
I wanted to discuss this segment within the conversation because I found this to be extremely enlightening, and I'm glad that she took a moment to talk about it. Women supporting women isn't just a slogan. It's not just a bumper sticker. It's not just a cool t-shirt. It's not just something you can say to sound cool or to sound with it. It's important to actually support other women. And when I say that, I don't mean people who perpetuate harm or people who oppress or people who, do anything. I'm speaking of women as in they still need to go through your filter and make sure that they are value aligned. But given that they've gone through all of that, it's important to support women because your dollar matters, your platform matters, your voice matters, your contribution, whether it be just simply shopping at their store or buying their product or gifting their product or sharing it on your social media or sending a link to their article. Your energy, however that manifests, is important because it helps sustain whatever that thing is. And so with this said, while I love what she pointed out about we need to use our resources to support other women because that contributes to the culture, that contributes to society. I think there's a bigger message here too that she's touching on, where the things that we support, or even if we don't support, this could also be said about just putting your energy towards something in general, whether that be positive or negative. The things that we put our energy toward sustain, manifest, and grow. So whether that's positive energy, whereas I'm sharing your article on my platform, I'm gifting someone your candle, or I'm buying something from your store, those are all things that are helping sustain your product or brand or voice or whatever. But also if I'm sharing your article because I want to rip it apart and the link is in my bio or the link is in my description box, or if I'm sharing your song to make fun of it, or I would never do that, but let's say I'm sharing your song to highlight something problematic within it, or let's say I'm just putting energy towards it at all. Let's say I'm creating a video to be mad about something or angry about something or disagree with something. That is still energy as well. And so what we put forth, the way we use our platform, the way we spend our dollar, it matters because what we contribute to, however that manifests, what we contribute to will grow and sustain due to our contribution.
Powerful. When I'm supporting or investing in another female founder, I am investing in what she's going to do for the culture, for her business, the legacy she's going to leave, how that brand, if it's a CPG brand, is going to show up in people's homes. So it is all fundamentally important, and I don't think it's a conversation we should shy away from. I think it's one that we should really embrace together.
Meghan looked stunning at this event. And not only did she look great, but there was sincere intention behind her jewelry, which we will get into. So let's start with the outfit. at the time of recording this, and I don't anticipate this will be the case for long, the top has not been ID'd for sure. Now, there are some people who feel like it is Gabriella Hearst, the Ollie shirt, and that might actually be the case, but it has not been confirmed yet. So we're still waiting for the confirmation, but it would make sense because Meghan has been relying on Gabriella Hearst, especially as of late, as one of her go-to brands. But I will share it once that ID gets confirmed. The skirt is the Brochu Walker, the Esme skirt. It's soft crafted from Italian vegan leather, and it is the color pearl. This is a beautiful skirt, and the fabric looked very flexible. It absolutely complimented her. And then for the heels, they are custom Dior, and they were made custom for Prince Archie's christening back in 2019, but they are nude and they're suede, and they are the Sade double ankle strap style. Now, I love these heels. They are kind of high, so I really like that. But again, those high heels make her legs look so long, and the fact that she was sitting in that pencil skirt, it definitely worked to her benefit. Now, this is so funny to me, but usually when we talk about Meghan's style, the first thing in the majority of the conversation is about her actual clothes, maybe a statement piece of jewelry. But this time, even though she had on this beautiful outfit, people could not stop talking about her nails. And believe it or not, it was the first thing I noticed as well. Now, I am a person who loves mauve. It compliments me. That's the color lipstick I wear for my everyday. I like mauve nails, or I like beige or white, but I love mauve and it complements my skin tone well, but I'm not a big, bold person. So when I see other people wearing mauve, especially when they find the right hue for them, it looks phenomenal. And this was no exception. I loved these nails. Now, they're trying to ID the specific color, but there are a few guesses on what Meghan wore. One option is the C&D shellac in the shade Fuji Love. And then there was another one considered C&D Vinyl Luxe in Fuji as well. And then the last guess, and they will confirm at some point, is the C&D shellac We Want Mauve or the Vinyl Luxe Gel Polish version. So, I mean, they're close enough. If you're looking to recreate the look, you might be able to just try one of those and see if one of the hues makes sense for you. But this is a beautiful, beautiful manicure. I thought it was phenomenal. And I actually like softer nails on my hands. I feel like for me, because of my skin tone, a lot of times if I do like a harsh red, even though I love red, if I do a harsh red, it makes my hands look old. And that's just me. It seems like it highlights every freaking line. Same thing with like super fire engine red lipstick. If I do a too red, it ages the heck out of me and it just makes me look a little harsh. But I found that when I do a softer red, and a lot of times I have to mix and match, when I do like a deeper lip line with a nice, more neutralized red, and I mix it in with a little gloss, that's when I can find my shade. But it's a touch and go every time. I don't have a go-to shade just yet. And that could be also because throughout the seasons, my skin tone, especially on my face, changes a lot. So I just kind of have to keep up with me and all of it. And so let's get to this ring that was making huge waves. First of all, I love this ring. It's so unique. This is the Guzema Trio Flat Ring in diamonds and yellow gold. Now, this ring is so freaking unique. The actual ring itself, it's a U shape. It's not a full circle. It's a U shape, and it goes underneath the finger. And you only see the top of the ring. You don't actually see the ringlets that connects it. It's just so unique. And it elongated her fingers a lot. Her hands look nice and long. And then she wore a pair of gold earrings from Pauline, the Eol stud earrings. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. And then lastly, she was wearing an additional ring on her left hand as well. Now, I'm still waiting on some of the IDs from what Meghan wore. I typically try to wait a week after Meghan wears a thing for all the IDs to come in. The people at What Meghan Wore are working so hard, and they pretty much work around the clock. So I try to just wait and be patient until they get a good ID, because they get it right every time, or at least they try to. Authenticity and accuracy is very important to them. So I'm a little patient. Now, I wanted to share the comments made about Guzema from Feminagra, and this is linked in the description box below under sources. It says, Meghan Sussex has long treated fashion as more than a style statement. Her wardrobe choices often reflect purpose, empathy, and quiet strength. At recent appearances in New York and Washington, D.C., she demonstrated how influence can uplift communities in need. By choosing to wear jewelry from the Ukrainian brand Guzema, Meghan turned elegance into advocacy, spotlighting craftsmanship from a country still enduring the realities of war. I thought that was a beautiful segment. They continued on by saying, the Kyiv-based label, founded by designer Valeria Guzema, is celebrated for its minimalist aesthetic and ethical craftsmanship. It continues to operate through the challenges of war, supporting local artisans while creating fine jewelry that reflects strength and serenity. Does that not describe Meghan to a T? This is the perfect collaboration. It goes on to say fans quickly connected Meghan's jewelry to Prince Harry's September visit to Ukraine, where he met war-wounded veterans and received gifts from local makers. Guzema later confirmed that the Duchess's earrings were a personal gift from Prince Harry, chosen during that visit. Oh, that's so sweet. The brand described the design as a symbol of gratitude, resilience, and shared humanity between cultures, linking the couple's humanitarian work through thoughtful design. The connection between their advocacy and Meghan's fashion statement resonated deeply. Ukrainian supporters described her gesture as a reminder that visibility, when guided by compassion, can amplify stories of endurance and hope. That is so thoughtful. Again, this is just one of many instances where Meghan has used her fashion or her likeness to truly amplify a cause or a platform or a person or a group or a community. And it's just par for the course with her. Again, just like I said in my last statement, it's why supporting her is supporting so many other things that help improve society. She, her brand, her business, and this includes Harry too, their foundation, they represent so many underserved and under-resourced communities and so many causes that still need so much work and advancement. So contributing to them and acknowledging them is acknowledging all of those things. And I think it's great that they represent so many things with such great value. They really put their value at the forefront. She used an opportunity to talk about her business to also continue to advocate for the humanitarian side of her work. And I just think that's so beautiful. What did you guys think of her overall look? I love the middle part and the hair pulled back. I like that she is giving us different looks for all of these different moments. Sometimes it can be easy to just keep your hair in the same style and change clothes between events. But I love that she's giving us variety of hair, variety of makeup, variety of manicure. The clothes, we're getting different looks, always venue appropriate, but we're getting to see so many different sides of Meghan, and she's having so much fun with her fashion, especially on that trip to Paris, New York, and now to Washington. I love what she's serving up. It just looks great, and I'm excited to see what else we get in the coming future. Y'all let me know your thoughts on her fashion below. Thank you so much for watching the SharionSade YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching my content. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video by hitting the thumbs up. Please don't forget to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. And don't forget to comment along the way. If you feel so inclined, please don't forget to share so that more people can find us. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Now let's get back to the video. So I have to start with the comments that she made regarding women helping women. I said a lot in the segment, but I wanted to elaborate a little bit more because I just felt like it was so great for her to not only end the conversation on that note, but to also acknowledge how far support actually does go and how far it travels, whether good or bad. And that's something that as a content creator, I have had a journey, and most of y'all have been here since the beginning. My strong 80 or my 80 strong from the very beginning, I had like 80 subscribers for like a year. And then it popped. But I've had to learn as a creator what deserves commentary and how to go about it versus what does not, and what deserves absolute banishment. And being that I am one of many channels, which is so great to say, I'm one of many channels, Sussex positive channels. I love that. I love that so much. But I'm one of many channels that defend Harry and Meghan as well as acknowledge their successes and follows their journey. Sometimes there are things that I want to talk about and I want to debunk and I want to go in on, and then I say, well, if I see more than 2 people talk about it, then I'll just allow them to have that, and I will continue to talk about positive things. Or if it's something that I'm personally like riled up about, I'll join in the conversation. But there are times where I really want to talk about something and I just feel like it's not big enough to even call any more attention to it. And that's how I set the rule of once it grows legs, then I'll talk about it, because I don't want to be part of the reason it spread. And it kind of reminds me of what she was saying about when you support another woman, when you support her product or her brand, you're also supporting the people who purchase that. You're also contributing to whatever the product is or the message or what have you that is ending up in the living rooms, in the homes, in the eyes and the ears and the mind of the people who consume whatever that product, service, content actually is. So when you contribute, you're contributing to the spread of it. And what a wonderful, powerful thing that we have in our control when it comes to our platforms, our microphones, our ability to mobilize and chat, our almighty dollar. We have the power to really grow things and we have the power to destroy things. And unfortunately, we have the power to ignore them and let them die out on their own. And so when you see something that you agree with or that you want to support and you want it to grow legs, just taking a little time to like, subscribe, share, hint. No, I'm just kidding. Shameless plug. No, I'm joking. But no, it takes time. Take the time to like, subscribe, and share, or share the link. But then when it's something bad, even when I want to talk about it, I have to remember they might not have access to my audience. My audience may never see whatever this comment was or whatever this link was or whatever this content was. And I'm not going to expose them to it. If you're already talking about it, I'll weigh in. But I'm not going to be the impetus for you even being exposed to that nonsense. And that goes, the same thing can be said about support as well. Where you put your support is what will grow. It will continue to manifest. And what you starve for attention will eventually die, or it'll make its way out of your life and out of your peripheral. And so the power really does lie with the public. And sometimes we can be a bit careless with that. Kind of takes me back to when we protest and we kind of advocate for different things, or we protest a brand or a company or a person. And it feels like we're just one of a million. And if we continue to consume, like, for example, the Target boycott or the Disney boycott, I'm just one person. It might not matter. The hell you are. Look at what happened. They felt it in their wallets. And that's unfortunately for people who don't have humanity. You can't empathize with them and you can't get them to empathize with you if they don't already care. You got to make them feel it in their wallet. But also on the same token, when you want to see someone, maybe it's a minority or a woman or a person who's just really working hard or a person really on the same mission or values that you want to see promoted, you have the power to help that platform, that content, that product, that person scale just by investing your energy. And I love not only acknowledging that we have that power, but I also love that we get to be part of their journeys. And I want to see more. I want to see more Meghans. I don't want it to just be Meghan. I want Meghan to be an example of what's yet to come. I want to see more Meghans. I want to see more people, and more to her point about autonomy and independence of all kinds. I want to see more people be able to say, screw this situation. It doesn't work for me. I'm out, and be able to do that. And the only way they'll be able to do that is when those lanes are opened up, when those paths are charted. That's why the things that Meghan is doing, not just for her own good, but the things that Meghan is doing as far as business and philanthropy, but also her whole story, just the whole story in public life. I feel like that's a sign of what's possible when you trust yourself, when you trust God, and you move with integrity. You do not have to split yourself in half for other people. You do not have to reduce yourself to half of yourself just to make other people comfortable. Look at where she and Harry and those very happy babies, catch that, very happy babies, they don't look like they hate life. And we don't even see their faces, and their joy emanates in all of their pictures and videos, and we don't even see their faces. Do you know how joyful you have to be for it to emanate from your entire being? But either way, that's what it's all for, by the way. But it's wonderful to see their whole story. And I feel like that's a symbol of what you can do in every situation. I know 1,000,001. Sorry, y'all. It's a gnat. I know of 1,000,001 stories and people who have been in situations, whether that's with abusive parents, whether that's in an abusive situation, whether that's just in an uncomfortable situation, where they feel stuck and they don't feel like they have the ability to break free, and they feel like the odds are against them and they can't surpass them. But I think what's so great about Harry and Meghan's story is they went up against one of the largest and oldest machines of all time, and they prevailed. Not survived, they prevailed. and put them to shame. I just feel like it's so symbolic of what's possible. Now on the other side of that, to see her not only survive and prevail, but to scale new ground, scale new heights, continue to find more ways to be successful and innovative and strive forward, setting new goals. I also think too, as a woman at 38 years old, I think I mentioned this. When I returned to school, I was nervous because I haven't been in school in a long time. And I was so nervous. I was like, I'm going to be the old lady in class and I'm just nervous and I haven't been there in a long time. I don't even know if I have like what it takes to answer questions on the spot like that anymore. And you know, when you haven't been in that environment, it can feel intimidating. I'm in the middle when it comes to ages. There's a 60-year-old woman in my class. There are several people in their 50s, several people in their 40s, a bunch of us in our 30s. And then there are people in their teens and 20s in my classes. Not only did that make me feel better and made me feel like less of a spotlight was on me, but also how beautiful that people are watching their life continue to evolve in chapters. And we now have examples that it's not over at 25. We aren't releasing greatest hits albums at 21 and then flashing out or fading out. We can always continue to live. There's always something to achieve and there's always another goal that we can strive for. And I think with Meghan being 43 and continuing 43 or 44 and continuing to pursue new goals and try new things and even having these new eras, like how cool. She was an actress. She is a royal. She is a businesswoman. She's a mom. She's a wife. All of these hats can coexist. Life doesn't stop at your first huge, catastrophic problem. And I would say that the situation with the royals, that could be seen as catastrophic. That was a pretty big deal. Life could have stopped there. I'm so happy that it didn't. And I'm so happy that not only did she survive, but man, look at what she's doing. And again, just like seeing all those women and all those men in my class who are older, it's just beautiful to see that we are no longer confining people to, if you don't get it by your 20s, you failed. We're just like, life is life, like life happens. Sometimes you do it on this side of life, and then sometimes you do it on that side of life. And I mean, as long as you're alive, there's an opportunity. And so I love seeing her continue to pursue this journey and try new things and continue to live out loud. I think that's a beautiful thing, but also the success that's come from it. So anyway, let's get to some of these comments. Hi, Colette McCullough. Colette McCullough says, the royals feel that only the senior royals should get all of the accolades. Well, that hasn't worked in years. That doesn't work. I agree with you. That doesn't work in any situation where it's kind of like the situation where, have you ever been in a corporate office and you're one of the only people pulling your weight? And the way they reward that is they give you like a star student award or whatever, but the way they reward it is giving you more work. That's the quickest way to burn out and lose a good employee, is acknowledging people only based on seniority and not recognizing people's hard work and the value they actually bring. It is imperative to acknowledge people's performance when they do a wonderful job. It's imperative to not just give negative reinforcement when it comes to teaching, but I don't even really believe in negative reinforcement. I feel like with adults, if you need negative reinforcement, you probably didn't hire someone mature enough to have a job. But I am 100% all about positive reinforcement, repetition, training, and positive reinforcement, and consistent coaching, and being available. And I think a big benefit of that is you get to help people develop and prosper and discover new talents and new skills and all these wonderful things. But if you allow people to work really hard and produce, and then you don't give them credit or you don't acknowledge it at all, or they don't get anything out of that, they're going to go do that somewhere else. And the royal family is no different. I mean, to think that Harry and Meghan are pulling in these huge crowds, interest like they have not seen since the 90s, since 1997. They're seeing new and innovative and exciting and enthralled energy, not just people like, oh, hey, I saw a royal today, but it's like, oh, I got to go stake out because I got to get front in line at the crowd control bars because I got to see Harry and Meghan. I got to touch one of their hands. Like, we saw renewed interest and excitement when Meghan joined that family. And we always saw that same excitement with Harry. But it was great that he found someone that was his match. And what a wonderful asset to the royals. The fact that they let that excitement die by not acknowledging, but also being extremely unfair, including a multitude of other things that they did. What a loss for them and a gain for us, because we get to see them unleashed and in their full aura, their whole capacity. It's amazing. Hi, Kat Harlem. Kat Harlem says, thank you, Sharion. It's my second favorite. Second favorite? Well, which one is better than this? Now, see, this would be my favorite hat. So if you got one that's doing better than this, then I need to see that too. Goodness. Oh my gosh. You can't tell me anything when I'm wearing it. I bet. I love this hat. I'm going to be talking about this when we hang up. That is a beautiful hat. I love it. I love fashionistas. I would love to take a lot more chances. But I'm not that great. As you've seen in my previous live streams, I've had some misses. Hi, Rory Brito. Rory Brito says, Sharion, I really appreciated this live. You not only discussed the fashion, but also highlighted her business acumen. I'm inspired and motivated by her confidence, beauty, and intellectual curiosity. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I've been trying to, when we do these recaps, I try to find it end to end and try to find all the nuggets in there so that we can talk about them, because she's really dropping some amazing gems, and she's really giving us insight that we really wouldn't have that much access to, especially from her perspective. So I definitely want to talk about it. It's just an amazing piece of content. Hi, Connie Balmer. Connie Balmer says, ever since the Sussexes left, everything seems to go downhill. While the Sussexes are glowing, the others look dull. Absolutely. What's inside is what you will see on the outside. It emanates out. You can't just operate with this rancid energy and think that you're going to get people to like you or people to support you. Just like I said, they got to feed the beast. They've already gotten their fan base used to drinking the blood of innocent victims, and now they have to continue that. And they're not going to be able to sustain, because those same people that they were preying upon have gotten their freedom. And now they are reduced to just creating olive branch stories now, because they don't have access to them and they can't leak anything and they can't twist anything. Now it's all about the olive branch. Or it's one of two things: the olive branch of like, Kate encourages William to extend an olive branch and blah, blah, blah. Or they'll say, Kate has finally had her last straw with Harry. And it's like, first of all, listen, families are families. And when you marry into a family, that becomes your family, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm married into a family, and I have been for 9 years. I can't imagine having a personal grievance with my brother-in-law. Like, we can be close, we can be family, but that's just, we're not, like, I don't see that being a thing. If my husband had a grievance against my sister, that would be so weird. So the way they try to make it like Kate is this lioness and she's the one protecting the family from Harry and Meghan, it just gets on my nerves. That woman is a wannabe bully and a washed up person who had an opportunity to really shake things up, and she didn't take it. She didn't have a personality, any fashion sense, or any common sense to that note. And she has been less than lackluster for that family. She's not even as exciting as Princess Anne. At least Princess Anne, you know, you're about to get a fierce beehive and a nice jacket or a blazer or a button down. You know, you're about to get served a nice look, maybe a military uniform, a beehive, and some hard work. Kate can't even produce that. She certainly wasn't competing with Meghan. Anyway, they do look dull. And whatever this wig business is, and I don't want to get nasty. I don't want to get nasty, but can we be honest? Whatever this, who is doing that lady wigs? Like, they clearly do not like her. See, that's why you got to hire people that like you and want to support you. They are setting that lady up. They just sit that straw right on top of her head, pin it down with a bobby, and go on about their business. She be looking terrible. I was like, now who been doing this lady wigs? Serves her right. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, you always look gorgeous on your live videos. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I have looked back when I was editing and I was like, what was the motivation for this shirt, Sharion? Sometimes you really don't see it until you see it on camera. Like Cher Horowitz on Clueless, when she takes pictures of herself, because she's like, you really can see what the outfit looks like on camera. I've kind of had that experience a few times where I'm like, now that looked good in the mirror, even with makeup. A couple of times I've done an eyebrow big like this. Anyway, you can go back, you'll see it. Hi, Lottie. It's good to see you. Lottie says, did you see old copycat copying Meghan? The woman has no self-esteem. None at all. Not an ounce. And you know what? Listen, the funniest part about you asking this question is you could be talking about 1,000,001 instances of this. She does it a lot, a whole lot. I just, it'd be great if somebody were honest with her about how silly it makes her look, but I think they let her walk into that chainsaw, or that buzzsaw. I think they like when she falls flat on her face. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says, not to be off topic, but the emails that I sent you last year, did you ever check it out? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna go back and check. I'm so sorry. Let me go back and check. Okay, let's go to the next one. Hi, YM Droid. YM Droid says, Sharion, let that chopper sing about the wigs. Okay, because, ma'am, who is doing that lady wigs? I almost wanted to do a deep dive, but I just didn't have the time. But those wigs have been straw. They've been lumpy. They've been uncombed and unkempt. Like one of the wigs looked like a possum's ass. And I'm so sorry. Just being real. Like, first of all, you have Meghan, who's out here serving look after look after look after look. Do you know what an insult it is that people try to compare her with her sheen hair and her glossy makeup and her fierce outfits with a meaning and purpose and intention behind it? And then they compare it to that old stuffy lady looking like an upside down broom. I hate when people compare them when they're like, oh, well, the sisters and the sister-in-laws. I'll be damned. You have to be a sister and a sibling in deed as well as in title. She needs to earn sister. She has yet to earn being Meghan's sister. Meghan deserves a real sister. She doesn't deserve whatever the hell that was. But she damn sure don't deserve to be related to anybody with that head of hair. Now listen, I've had my bad hair days. We all have. But I had bad hair days that was growing out of my own head. I'll be damned if I put a bad head of hair on my head on purpose. If that's the case, I could have just worn my own. Who goes out and buys bad hair? That's what I like. Listen, y'all did not come here for this. But for real, do you know what kind of craziness you have to be living in and kind of delusion to go out and seek out a bad head of hair? Come on now. Now, y'all know I have been real hard on some of my buns. I have had some buns that I was just like, must have been in a rush that day. But that was my bun. I'm not about to go and shop around and have the budget of all budgets to buy whatever kind of hair I want to buy. And I'm scrolling through and I'm like, give me your rattiest, tattiest piece of crap and stick it right on this dome. And it doesn't help that she already looked gaunt. And you put that head of hair and it makes her look like a bobblehead, like a little, remember them little troll dolls from the 90s? It kind of gives you that energy. And I'm not just trying to go in on the lady, but if you were going to copy anything, maybe you should have copied Meghan's integrity, her sense of style, not copied her style, but copied her sense of style, as in found your own. Maybe you could have copied her kindness, her love of humanity, her gentle spirit, her common sense, her integrity, her intelligence. I mean, you could have, and I'm speaking about Kate, she could have copied some real things that would have served her. Trying to steal Meghan's outfits thread for thread is only going to get you so far, because at some point she's going to leave you in the dust when you no longer know what she's going to wear. You're going to have to rely on yourself. Maybe you should have learned a thing or two. Maybe she should have asked Meghan about her fashion contacts. It certainly would have served her well. I know what she's not asking Meghan about, and she should. Who is your hairdresser? I know who Meghan's hairdresser is, and I hope she doesn't touch a thread on that straw head. Anyway, we are not going to do this. We're going to keep it positive. YM Joy said Kate's wigs are 100% reflective of the fact that she doesn't have any real friends around her. Right. And you know what? You remember those ascots, those videos of the royal ascot of her like being mean to some of her friends, like going to one of her friends? That was indicative of what they probably experienced behind the scenes. Hi, Gwendolyn Daniel. Gwendolyn Daniel says, clueless, vindictive Kate will absolutely try to copy Meghan for Christmas. The idiot. I like that you just ended it with the idiot. Like, in case you didn't know, I feel like this woman is also this. But no, probably. Hi, SKT. SKT says, Meghan's style team loves her and it shows. Yes, it helps that she knows style as well. Like, she doesn't just say, dress me, get me ready. Like, she has a point of view. She has a vision. She knows herself and her body well. She knows fashion. She has for a really long time. And then she hired the best, and then she's bonded to them. It's just the perfect cocktail to serve up the amazing looks that we keep seeing. That's how you get that type of perfection, that exquisite taste from top to bottom. She has the perfect cocktail. When you do right by others, they do right by you. 100%. Kim Coates said, YM Droid, ouch. Hi, Lottie. Lottie says, that's why her other styles left her dumb self, because she was too busy copying me. I can imagine. Do you know how annoying it would be if you have an expertise and the person is like, I get it. I hired you because of your expertise, but can you just copy my sister? Like, can you just follow what she's doing, but make it me? Like, I know that would get old. Goodness. Hi, Evie Lynn. Evie Lynn says it's too much hair and too long, especially for a 42 or 43-year-old woman. It does look out of place. I think she's trying to reclaim a youthful spirit. I don't know, but it's just bad. It's bad, and it's such bad quality. It just doesn't look good. Hi, Mina Ruth. Mina Ruth says Kate has no personality at all. That's why she copies every woman in the royal family. Yes, that's a great point. She didn't just copy Meghan, although that was just so egregious. I mean, she was copying Meghan's hair, makeup, and clothes like almost days and weeks after. She wasn't even letting it breathe a little bit. She was right on it, stealing right out the gate. But she had her moments where she copies Diana. She had her moments where she copied Queen Elizabeth. And the thing is, she's not old, and she's not over yet. Like, she has time to really cement some form of a legacy and really get on some kind of platform and really find out what is it that matters to me. But I think what I'm realizing, what I already know, nothing really matters to her because the goal was to get the crown. The rest of this is just coasting, and they're making her pay for it, aren't they? Some things are just not worth it. Hi, 1111. 1111 says, not possum's ass upside down broom. I mean, that's the only image I had in my head. My bad, y'all. Hi, Mackenzie. Mackenzie says, it's a wig you'd get pulled over. Get pulled over in customs for smuggling. Okay, yes, because doesn't it look like she have a bag of Coke sitting up under her wig? The way it's sitting up. Listen, that is such an apt description because yes, they remind me of Broke Down Palace. If you haven't seen that movie, don't. It's so traumatizing, but it's these two girls go on vacation and they get framed for smuggling, and they go to a prison. I think it might be, I can't remember, but it's like in another country, and it's bad. But anyway, this comment reminds me of that, but the way her wig be sitting up it seems like something is underneath it. I really would like to know how they apply it, but also why are they picking these wigs? And maybe they don't know that when you buy a wig or any type of hair, you kind of have to I don't know what the word is, but you have to prepare it. Like, you have to comb through it. You have to like pull some out. You have to pick at it. You have to get the hairline ready. That's why I don't wear hair pieces. It's just too much work. I'm quick to just throw up a little wet bun and call it a day. But when they get it right, they get it right. Hi, YM Droid. YM Droid says, the last time I had a wig that bad was as a struggling college student, where that was the best I could do between classes and 2 jobs. Listen, I feel like as a society, we have a rule of we don't judge each other for the way we looked in college because we all struggling and we all trying to get it. Yes, because I pulled out some looks in college. And I'm just going to let it cook right there. I'm just going to survive right there. YM Joyce goes on to say, my friends told me when my wig was... Oh, that's good friends. When my wig was busted and I was broke, I didn't have time, so it was whatever. But to have that much money... No, but see, you're making a wonderful point. To have that much money and still be bad, that's how money cannot buy you class, and it cannot buy you common sense at all. Anyway, I'm going to end it on this comment. Lottie says, Meghan was beautiful the whole weekend. I could not agree more. And Lottie, I love your profile picture. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I love your profile picture. But yes, Meghan looked wonderful all weekend. She was serving up look after look after look. And it's so fun being a fan of hers. We're on the right side of history, and we get a lot to consume, a lot of good content. And we never have to worry about Meghan embarrassing us by acting a fool or operating with no integrity. It's safe to be a fan publicly of her because she's never going to let you down. Can't say that about the Derangers. I mean, supporting anyone who earns you the nickname Derangers is probably not the best judgment, but anyway. SKT says, sadly, Kate was raised to catch and marry a rich man and have his baby. She was not allowed to have a personality or a voice. Even sadder, that's what William wanted, but Harry wanted the list. This is the perfect description for this situation because yes, and I don't think William could handle anybody with their own voice because he is a very fragile person. That's why he acts like that. Bullies are often extremely sensitive, but they're often very, very weak. They lack courage. That's why they bully people into submission who disagree with them rather than make space for people to disagree. They can't look at themselves authentically. They can't hold themselves accountable. Their deepest fear in a lot of cases is being seen as inadequate. And it's because their self-esteem comes from the approval and validation of others. It's a very weak, sad, and broken place to be. And it's fitting for him. He deserves it. He deserves the misery that he tries to bring on others. He is only bringing to himself. I'm not sure who said it first, but one of my favorite quotes is, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for someone else to die. That is how I would describe both William, Kate, Charles, and Camilla. They have been preying on Harry and Meghan for so long. And before them, they were preying on Diana. And they've made their life about the attempted downfall of other people just because I can't stand tall unless you guys fall. And how weak do you have to be? Do you know how embarrassing and sad and pathetic it would have to be to wait for someone else to have negativity or something unfortunate to befall them for you to feel important? That should tell you just how little they see them, how low they see themselves, and how little they think of themselves. And that's why they bully. That is why they behave the way they do. That is why they dislike Harry and Meghan. It's because inside they know that they are not worthy, not even just of crowns or anything like that, because that stuff really doesn't matter, but they're not worthy of the position in society that they have been granted. They've been blessed, but they are not worthy. And they know that they don't really stand for anything. And they don't really have any skills because their whole life they've been told how great they're going to be and how great they are. They've never had the opportunity to develop any skills. They've never had the opportunity to become well-rounded, fleshed out human beings. Harry was in Africa for most of his summers and in the outback, and he was in the military, and he went to school, and he traveled, and he had friends. He challenged himself. He consumed himself, or he immersed himself in situations where his crown and his connections and his family would not serve him. The military don't give a damn about Harry's crown. He had to earn every single medal, ribbon, title, position that he had. Not only did he have to earn it, he had to beat out a lot of people to be seen in the high standards that he was seen in, and to do some of the things that he was able to do. They don't just let anybody become an Apache pilot. They have to have a great deal of trust in you and your skill. And that's why Harry became the person that he is, aside from just really taking after his mom and her heart. But he became a well-rounded person because he was actually challenged. He actually had time to build himself and his character. And he didn't go through life bullying people into being his friend. He made friends, genuine relationships, and built connections. And that's why you see so many people willing to ride for both him and Meghan, who had a very similar experience. They both lived life and challenged themselves, and they consistently challenged themselves to evolve and become better people. When you sit around and your whole persona is built up on the potential demise of other people, or your ability to use your force, brute force, and your connections and your position in society to bully other people into submission, you're only going to get so much out of that. And it's only going to be temporary, because at some point you have to go home. You have to go home, and you can't bring the screaming fans and supporters with you. You go into your bathroom or your bedroom or wherever, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror, and you have to see what's really there. And every day those people are faced with seeing the thing that they are trying so desperately to hide from the world. And that is sad, pathetic, poor in spirit people with nothing to truly live for. The only value they see in their lives, from my assessment, and I'm not qualified to assess anybody, but this is just the ramblings of an old crazy lady in Texas. But the only value they see in themselves is the value that their supporters give them. If everybody stopped going to their engagements, if everybody stopped buying their products when they put things out, or stop attending their events if they go to things, and whatever else, if people stopped consuming them, they would go crazy, if not worse. They would have no purpose. That's really sad. And it's one of the very few cases where I can say it's really sad and pathetic, and they deserve every bit of that misery. And until they stop trying to project that out, they're going to be completely consumed by it. Everything that they wish to befall on Harry and Meghan has not only made its way back home, because karma is a boomerang. It makes its way back to your doorstep. What you put out heads back home eventually. But not only did it not work on Harry and Meghan, but it's absolutely working on them, and it's working their asses over left, right, front, and center. They look a mess. I mean, they are going through it. And honestly, with the exception of Charles, because I said before, Harry is charting a new path with Charles that he talked about in his interview with The Guardian, and he's spending more time with him. So I'm going to lay off Charles until he pisses me off again. But as far as Camilla, Will, and Kate, they are still primed and ready targets, and I will continue to aim my fire at them. But no, you can tell that they are being worked over. The fact that they have slid into irrelevance, complete irrelevance, that's got to be a tough pill to swallow. But people don't want to support racists. Simply, but like, people don't want to support racists. People don't want to support bullies. Also, any institution or organization or program that refuses to evolve will eventually die. That's just nature. That's life. If you don't evolve, you die. and their institution, with all the information that they have had, with every other female spouse that married into that family, particularly Diana, they have refused to apply, adapt, and move forward into evolution. Being that we had Diana's story in several formats decades ago, and they still replicated that same but worse experience for Meghan, shows that they weren't trying to learn. They weren't trying to change. They weren't trying to evolve. They want other people to bend the knee and acquiesce to them when they really don't even have anything to gain by being part of that family. A lot of times you'll hear me say, Meghan had to really, really love Harry to sign up for that. She endured a lot. And even the whole lifestyle, it was beneath the path that she was on and what she had built for herself by herself. She really loved him. She sacrificed so much. And look what ended up happening. They ended up having to come together and build something all their own. And it's better than what either of them had prior to. And I think that's a story about operating in your destiny. But then 2, no weapon formed against you will prosper. And then 3, the fact that those people think that people covet being in that family is crazy. That's how you know they're crazy and they don't know any better. Anybody with 2 cents to rub together will tell you that doesn't look appealing. Not being able to use my own cell phone and social media, not being able to speak for myself, not even really being able to pick my own clothes in most cases, like having protocol. Like if somebody came up to me and was like, Sharion, your bun is 2 inches to the left too far, you need to change it or the queen's gonna kick you in the side of the head, I would not be part of that relationship, or I wouldn't be part of that organization. I would be like, well, she's gonna have to kick the hell out of me then, because I'm not moving my bun. I would absolutely stand 10 toes down. The fact that Meghan gave it her best shot and did a wonderful job. I mean, she killed it. The fact that she gave it her best shot, did a wonderful job, and left and did even better. Kudos to her and Harry, but now they're left with the remnants of what could have been. And every time people look at the royals, they see, God dang, y'all really messed up a good thing. Well, anyway, I'm going to go log on to archewell.org or sussex.com and see what they're doing. People are not interested in what those people are up to. Even when they tried to make a dig at Harry and Meghan and move them down on the website, and then they changed their homepage and they did all those things hoping to get their attention, because I think that's what it was for. They didn't care. Why would I care where I sit on your website when I have my own and it's getting 3 times the web traffic yours gets? Why would I care? Why would I care about being on your website when the only time a groundswell happened around your website was when I had my wedding? Nobody was looking at y'all's website before I came around. Like everything they try to use against Harry and Meghan only serves to highlight how inept they are, how vapid they are, how unproductive they are, how purposeless they are, and honestly, how irrelevant they are. And that's exactly why nobody's going to their engagements. I've seen some of their engagements where the crowd control bars are completely empty. Completely empty. I even feel like with my non-famous, nobody knows who the hell I am self, if I went somewhere, I feel like at least one person would be like, hey girl, even if they're just being polite, like at least one person would be like, hey Sherry, how you doing? But the fact that those people with all of that fame be showing up to events and they're completely empty, unless people are there who work there. People are sick and tired of supporting abusers. People are ready for something new, and people are ready for the tide to turn. And nobody wants to support a racist and a bigot and a bully. Nobody wants to support that. But anyway, that is all I have for y'all today. I hope y'all enjoyed today's live stream. Sorry for my rant at the end, but when we got on the topic of wigs, it took me down a rabbit hole. That's why they got that lady wearing them wigs. She'd be looking a mess. But anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. If you haven't already, please don't forget to go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel. And if you feel so inclined, feel free to share so that more people can find us. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.